This is the embarrassing ones. I'm like sweating here. Hey, I'm back with more questions from my Q&A, and in this video, I'm going to be talking about love, marriage, and all that good stuff. So one of you asked me, do you have an ideal Jewish partner in mind for the future, and how do you feel about Shidduch? So let's get into it. All right, now I'm gonna start with something a little embarrassing because I do have a list and it's a bit outdated, even though it's not that old, but I want to show you guys this list that I created to really show you how much it's actually changed. So I wrote this in October of 2019, over a couple years old, so bear with me. And I basically divided this list into non-negotiable and then high priority but negotiable. So let me just go into it. And I also entitled the list in like such a corny way. I wrote for my husband so I could just picture like these would be the traits of my future husband. Cherishes, adores, and honors who I am. Supports my lifestyle and spiritual observances. And by lifestyle, I meant my spiritual lifestyle and just being okay with like the intensity of it. Strictly observes Shabbat and Yamim Tovim, Jewish holidays. Has a family that will respect and uphold our observances. And I wrote that because I don't know what kind of background my future husband will come from, and if he's not from an observant household, I just want to make sure that his family, our family, would be very accommodating and respectful of that. Knows how to put on tefillin confidently enough to teach our sons, assuming we would have sons. Okay, this one's kind of funny. Earns an honorable living and at least as much income as I earn. So the latter part is kind of funny because I'm earning zero right now. I'm not working yet. But earns an honorable living, like to me, that's so important that I actually respect what my husband does, like whatever line of work. So yeah, that's definitely important for me. Able to pause and savor moments, which is just universally important. Genuinely adores children and animals because I feel like a good person loves children and animals, and I don't know, that's just what I feel. Behaves respectfully towards elders, and this is a really important one for me too. It's something that I sadly feel like is really missing from society at this point, and especially in America. Okay, so that's a pretty good list. I think that all basically still holds true. So here's my high priority but negotiable list. I wrote praise Shema twice a day and with a minyan for shacharit. So I would like somebody who goes to like a daily minyan kind of thing. And I think the reason I wrote Shema twice a day, technically we recite it 3 times a day because we have it for shacharit, our morning prayers, for Mariv during evening prayers, and then you also say it again for Kriyat Shema al Hamitah, the bedtime prayers. But I wrote twice a day because halachically you're supposed to say it, as it says in the Torah, when you rise and when you lie down. So for me, as long as my husband would honor that basic requirement, I felt like that was, good enough for me. How do I still feel about this? I think, and with the minyan for shacharit, yeah, I think it would be nice, but you know what? I'll get to my, what sort of changed in me a little bit after. So my next item, I wrote regularly wears tzitzit and kippah. And the next one I wrote speaks at least 2 languages / is multicultural. Okay, now this one's like, this is the embarrassing one. This is why I said it was embarrassing. So this one, and again, mind you, this is high priority but negotiable. I wrote earns a high income / maintains a strong financial portfolio. So this has changed a little bit, but frankly, if I'm just being totally candid, that would be nice. And as much as I do have this very like independent attitude, I'm kind of a classic where I would also like to feel like I'm taken care of by my husband. And related to that, the next one is knows how to enjoy and appreciate material comforts and luxuries. And I'm like sweating here because it's kind of embarrassing, but look, the honest truth is that I definitely do enjoy material comforts and I do like, some certain life luxury things. So, it's not that this person has to have that background or come in with like a lot of money or anything, but I do think there are certain types of people who actually are comfortable enjoying those things rather than certain people who actually feel like it, like they're not good enough to enjoy it, or they just aren't into it. Like I have a friend who's just so not into luxury stuff, so not into materialism, and that's really cool and I love her dearly, but that's just her style. But other people are just, happy going to like a nice restaurant or going on a nice vacation, and I do tend to enjoy those things. So it's not that this person has to come in with those things, but I like the attitude of someone who's able to enjoy them. So I hope that kind of clarifies it. Now the next one I write that he's a leader / expert in his field of work work or study? So this one's important to me. I think I get this one kind of like from my dad, because he worked really hard and he really became like, he just excelled at what he did. So I think that's a trait that I very much admire in people, not just men, just like in people in general. So I would really hope that my husband excels at whatever he's doing. And I wrote here, like, whether it's his work or study. So like if he's like an awesome Torah scholar, that would be cool too. Next, I write that he has a good appetite / generally enjoys eating. So I wrote this one because I love cooking and I love like feeding people. It's one of the things that just gives me the most joy in life. So I would prefer that my husband is able to enjoy whatever I make him. Two more. The next one is that he enjoys Korean food and is interested in Korean culture. So that would obviously be nice because that's my background and it's most of like the food that I eat, or maybe not most, but like at least half the food I eat is Korean. So I would definitely, envision having a very Korean household. So that's an important one for me. And the last one is that he has a family I get along with / that adds simcha to our lives, happiness, joy. So I want to make sure obviously that I would get along with our future in-laws and that we're just having a very shalom bayit, like a nice peaceful household and a joyful family life. Okay, so maybe that wasn't as embarrassing as I thought it was. Like obviously the financial stuff is a little materialistic, but that's where I was a couple years ago. And to be honest, like these are all still things, like they all do pretty much hold true. These are things that would be nice to have. But the point of me sharing this list was to really reflect on how much I've actually changed from thinking about my ideal partner. So I've generally always believed in the idea of soulmates, and I very much do so now. So when I think about my ideal partner for the future, I'm not really thinking about this list anymore. And while these are nice like guidelines for me to have and they're kind of in the background, for me it's so much more about how that person who would be my soulmate makes me feel and how I engage with that person. So for me it's so much more about chemistry and harmony and how we just kind of vibe together. So a lot of that has to do with me asking, does he bring out the best in me? Does he make me feel like my most authentic self? And does he help me become a better person by showing me any traits that I don't like about myself that I know that I can improve? So those are the kinds of things that I think are so much more important about finding your ideal partner, is how you actually partner up with that person rather than seeing them as like a static list of traits and qualities and how they look on paper basically. Because you could have someone who's like checking all the boxes on paper, but then if you don't interact with that person properly and if you just don't feel that particular chemistry, then it's really no good. So I really think that we each have like a soulmate and that we have another half out there and that person is really supposed to like fit like this beautiful puzzle piece. And I feel like that really happens a lot more on an emotional and energetic level rather than as a list. Sorry about that. So yeah, that's kind of how I look at my ideal partner now. Like I'm just really looking for, I think if I had to boil it down to one particular thing that I'm looking for, it's who I feel most authentic around. So I think that will be like my big like kind of call sign to know that this is my person. So the next part of the question that you asked was, how do you feel about Shidduch? So Shidduch refers to matchmaking. A Shidduch is like a match and a Shadchan is a matchmaker. So there still is a tradition, very live and well, of matchmaking in Jewish dating. And to be honest, like I'm totally cool with the idea of it. Like I don't think there's anything wrong with matchmaking. I don't think it's like forced or natural. And like I know people have their opinions about it, but I think it works, sometimes, obviously, like not always, but I think it's a great service and a great avenue for people to find different matches. But personally, I don't think it's for me, just for a few different reasons. One, I just really believe in finding your person like more organically. Like that's just my style. That's just how I am. Like I've done dating sites in the way past, but by the time like app dating came around, like I never really got into that stuff. So I feel like it's just a little impersonal for me. And I don't know, like going through a process of finding a person like just doesn't appeal to me. So I'd rather just like leave it in Hashem's hands and see when that person comes and just let that happen naturally. So that's kind of just more my style. And also when it comes to Shidduch dating, I think it's a little bit tougher, and maybe this is just me like making assumptions, but I do think it's tougher being a convert and being, being Korean, because you're going to, generally speaking, people who are doing like Shidduch dating, like actually working with like professional shadchans and stuff, matchmakers, they tend to be from more insular communities, in my opinion. So a lot of times, and I know this for a fact, that a lot of times, like one of the questions a shadchan will ask when they do like an interview, like an intake of, well, you know, what type of person you're looking for, they literally ask people, are you willing to date a convert? And to which a lot of people say no, and preferably not. So frankly, like if I did go through that like professional process, or even just like working with someone casually, like I don't think I'd get the same quality and quantity of options as a lot of other people might get. So yeah, totally cool with the idea of it, but it's just not for me for a few different reasons. Sorry about my phone. So to cap this off, I have one more question from another person asking, in Judaism, women are not obligated to have children. Do you consider having children? And so this has changed a lot over time. When I was growing up, like all I wanted to do was have kids. I wanted a big family. I always said like I wanted to have at least 3 kids and maybe up to 4. And I guess that's not necessarily a big family when it comes to Jewish families, but for me that was. And anyway, I always wanted to be a mom. Like I was super, and I still am like very, very maternal and just very in touch with like maternal feminine energy, and just always saw myself as being a mother. But interestingly, the last couple years, and especially more so last year, I start to kind of shift. And, you know, I am 35 now. And let me just say, I really don't believe in the idea that there's like a cutoff age for having kids. Like, I think that if it's meant to happen, you could be 50 plus years old and have children. And it's totally possible, and it happens. So I'm not worried so much about that. But when it comes to whether I want to have children, I, at least at this point in my life, to be totally candid, don't really feel that same pull to be a mother anymore. And it's not that I'm against it. And if it happened, I would be so grateful and so excited and just delighted to have, you know, a child in my life. But I don't feel called to it or pulled to it in the same way I used to. So basically, I'm just going to wait and see what happens. And I also don't believe in birth control, and I don't want to get into all that, but like, you know, so I would just kind of let my destiny take its path once I get married, and we'll see what happens. So that's it. Thanks for sending in these really interesting questions. I hope you got to learn a little bit more about me and my future husband to be, and B'ezras Hashem, it will happen, you know, in due time, but I'm in really no rush. So anyway, thanks again for sticking with me. I'll be answering more Q&A questions. If you guys want to drop more of them into that video, I will drop a link here so you can add them to the comments, and I'll see you in the next one. Shalom Aleichem.